In the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verses 9 and 10, it tells us that Yah has declared the end from the very beginning. And when we go back to the beginning in the book of Genesis or the book of Bereshit, chapter 1, we see that Yah created the heavens and earth in 6 days and filled it up. And on the seventh day, he rested from his work. Many that read this may not realize they're reading a prophecy of the very end. In the book of Psalms and also in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8, it tells us that a day with Yah is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years like a day. So when we look at this week of creation, we're actually seeing a picture of the end. We also find out in Genesis chapter 6 verse 3 that it tells us that man's days are numbered, that they should be 120, and a lot of times it says years, but the word is Shana in Hebrew, and it can mean cycles. As a matter of fact, it makes more sense that way because we have people like Aaron the high priest who lived to be 123. So if we understand that as years, it seems that it doesn't make sense. There was other people that lived past 120 as well. So if we understand this as cycles, that man's days are numbered to 120 cycles, if we understand Jubilee cycles, a 50-year period, and times that by 120, that's 6,000 years. That man's allotted 6,000 years, but in the 7th millennia, that 1,000-year period, it seems to tie into the period of time mentioned in Revelation chapter 20, where Messiah will reign for 1,000 years before that 8th day begins. And we'll get into that at another time. But in that 7th day, he brings rest and restoration to this earth. That his plan is wrapped up within this first week. That he's actually had a plan for restoration from the very beginning. And this is huge. So within this 7,000 year plan, there are wheels within wheels, or cycles within cycles. And as I just mentioned, there's a Jubilee cycle, a 50-year period. You can read this in the book of Leviticus chapter 25. So within a 6,000-year period, you're going to have 120 Jubilee cycles. And within a 7,000-year period, you're going to have 140 Jubilee cycles. So, and within a Jubilee cycle, we have what's called Shemitah cycles, which is a 7-year period. The first 6 years you can sow and reap, but on the Sabbath year you kind of rest. It's kind of tied into the year of release. Now within the Jubilee cycle you have 7 of these cycles plus 1 year, but also within the Shemitah year it can also be broken down into annual cycles, which happens every single year. With the Moedim, we have Passover. We have unleavened bread, first fruits, and the one we're going to be talking about here very soon is Yom Teruah, or also known as trumpets. And we also have Yom Kippurim, which is the Day of Coverings, the Day of Atonements. And we also have Sukkot, also known as Tabernacles of Booths, and Shmini Atzeret is the 8th day. Those are the 7 appointed times that happen on an annual cycle. We also have other key things mentioned in Scripture in regarding to the moon. And this is kind of significant because it tells us that the moon was created for the Moedim in Psalm 104:19. Make sure you study it in the Hebrew and you'll understand that clearly. Also, we can break down even things that happen within the month to even just on a weekly basis. At the end of 6 days of work, we rest on the Sabbath day, which is a picture that goes all the way back to the creation. And it also points to the resurrection of Yahushua Messiah, which also happened on Mia Sabbaton, the first Sabbath going up to Shavuot in 34 CE. And we'll talk about that more later. But it not only points to the creation, to the resurrection, but also points to the future as we're talking about right now. And I want to read from Colossians 2, verse 16. It's written, "Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking or respect of festival or new moon or Sabbath, which are a shadow of what is to come, but the body of Messiah." So it's telling us that these Sabbaths, these new moons, these festivals are all pictures of things to come. They haven't happened yet. We haven't entered his rest yet. There still remains a Sabbath keeping for the people of Elohim, Hebrews 4:9. So we can see just even this quick example here that Yah has truly declared the end from the beginning. Shalom.